I got fears about having kids. It's not even just that. Like, I don't want to pass my shitty genes down to my kids. I was born severely dyslexic, and I was born with a form of nerve damage in my hands that caused my hands to shake. It's the reason why every Instagram video I'm in looks like a boomerang. It's also the reason why every conversation I've ever had with the cops has ended with, yeah, I'm still gonna have to look in the trunk. I love my shaking hands now, though. Of all my disabilities, shaking hands is definitely my favorite one. As a kid, I was super embarrassed by it. It made me feel super weird. Now, it's way more fun, and I'm not just talking about sexually. Like, think about the most boring thing in your guys' life, for example. Like, think about soup, for example. For you guys, soup, very boring. For me, soup is like an action movie. The people I'm sitting at the table with are like, I don't know if he's gonna make it! Spoiler alert, I never make it. I'm so dyslexic too. I'm super dyslexic. Like, I'm so dyslexic, I'd say after the show, go ahead and follow me on Twitter if you hate spelling and grammar and love puzzles. By the way, the guy who came up with the name and spelling for dyslexia, huge asshole. Like, what's their problem? They can't read or spell too well? Let's throw a silent Y in there. Why? Because fuck them, it'll be funny for the rest of us. As a dyslexic person, texting is a nightmare. The only thing worse than texting, sexting. Yeah, because this is my job. I travel for a living. I'm normally on the road like 40 weekends out of the year, and it's very hard to keep it spicy with the woman you're dating when she thinks you're constantly trying to slide into her Virginia. But then Talk to Text came out, and that shit was like a game changer for me. But even that would have its hiccups, because I'd be like, ooh, do you like that? And Siri would be like, yeah, not so much. And every time I'm doing my Talk to Sex, like I said, I'm always in some hotel room, and there's always a connecting door, and I'm always terrified on the other side of that door is some sweet family on vacation. And they hear me doing my Talk to Sex, and Siri's always fucking up the words, so you gotta keep repeating yourself. So I'm just in there like, panties, panties, panties. Like, no, why would I want to wear her pastries? Fuck off. We all have our things, you know? I also have cerebral palsy. I normally don't talk about all these topics back to back because then it sounds like I'm trying to start myself a fucking foundation. Like, that's the crazy thing about having all my disabilities too. Like, you couldn't tell by looking at me. Like, if I parked in a handicap spot at a store and you saw me walk into a Target, you'd be like, I'm keying this motherfucker's car. I would fall, break a lot of bones and shit like that because of my CP. The worst for me that ever really happened when I was in 6th grade, I had to have both my legs put in walking casts to stretch my Achilles tendons out. And to cheer me up, my parents said we were gonna take a trip. Now, in your logical 12-year-old kid brain, when you hear trip, where do you think we're going? Exactly, the Hooters on Staten Island. I don't know, you guys all did that at once. That was fucking impressive. And here's the thing, I'm 38 years old. I still wonder to this day sometimes who pitched that idea, my mom or my dad. Because think about that. Well, I was in that doctor's office, having my little fat kid legs taped up to look like giant cannolis. One of them had to be out in that waiting room like, hey, wouldn't it be funny we take the boys, see some boobies? I use that voice because I hope it was my dad. And not my mom just like, hey, you know what always cheers you up? Boobies. And as soon as we walked through the door of this Hooters, my parents lied to these waitresses and told them it's my birthday. Do you guys know what they do at Hooters when it's your birthday? They make you stand on top of a plastic chair and you air jerk off salt and pepper shakers while they sing you happy birthday. Yeah, like I had to do that shit in front of my mom and dad. And I was 12. It wasn't like I didn't know what this was. It was the year jerking off showed up. And it showed up in a big way. Like, the two biggest things that year in my room were masturbation and Oasis's Wonderwall. Yeah, it was a constant champagne supernova. My dad's a man's man, too. My dad's a guy's guy. My dad's a New York City firefighter and a blue-collar Republican. I'm a New York City liberal, and I do this for a living. I know, it is funny. Sometimes I do think to myself, like, is there any way you could be a bigger disappointment to your New York City firefighter father? Then I think, yeah, gay terrorist. Which, by the way, is what my dad calls a yoga instructor, so. Very progressive man. My dad, like, I love my dad. I love hanging out with my dad. The only problem is when we hang out, sometimes my dad's guy friends come, and they're all like the types of guys who would like smack a chick on the ass and be like, hey, what's the matter with me? What's the matter with you? That's a compliment. You should smile more. You got a pretty face. Gentlemen. And we were at this Yankees game a couple summers ago, and this dude was like, hey, what do you do for a living, pal? Huh? What do you do? You make something with your hands? What do you do? And I was like, oh, I'm never gonna tell you. And he was like, come on, what do you do? And my dad, the Judas, told me out immediately. He's like, oh, him? He's a comedian. And they're like, oh, you comedian? Tell us a joke. Funny guy. Come on, Andrew Dice Clay, tell us a joke. To which I was like, oh, no. And that guy got pissed. He was like, sure, whatever, you're a comedian. Then he got up to get everyone else beers. But right before he leaves, he just leans in, taps me, and goes, woof, I'm sweating like a Jew in an audit here. Yeah, and they all start hysterical laughing. And then another one of them taps me and goes, now that's a comedian. No, it's not. That's just a racist with good timing. That's it. Have you ever seen one of those dudes who works out but does no cardio, so he just looks like someone ripped the arms off a He-Man and put him on a Mr. Potato Head? That was that dude, mustache and all. And he kept bragging. He kept bragging the whole game about how he got laid the night before, and he was like, last night I totally did it with this chick, and then she left stuff in my apartment so she could come back so we could do it again. And I was like, are you sure it wasn't because she was like, oh, I gotta get the fuck out of here? The fucked up part is, though, is guys like that guy and guys like my dad make the best dads. Mostly because of the fact that their kids fear them. Like, that's not gonna be the case for my generation. Like, none of our kids are gonna fear us. Mostly because of the fact that none of us are gonna work the kinds of jobs you come home and beat your kids from. Like, nobody comes home from a hard day of graphic designing and beats their kid. Like, you've never heard anyone be like, oh no, look out, Dad's Photoshop crashed. My dad's idiot friend, too, is one of those dudes who rocks a pop collar. You ever see one of those gentlemen? Oof. Yeah, by the way, if you don't know what the pop collar means, basically what the pop collar means is that guy is 2 Bud Light Limes away from telling you what he really thinks about Puerto Ricans. He's racist. That's not a pop collar as much as it is a reverse Ku Klux Klan hoodie. And for some reason, it's salmon. And this dude was like, dude, let me give you a little bit of advice. And I was like, oh, I totally want advice from a man who's dressed like a dog that just got back from the vet. What's up? And he was like, when you date a chick, you gotta date a chick who loves sports. A chick who loves sports. And his whole logic was, it's like being with one of the guys. It's like being with one of the guys. I don't know, me personally, anytime I'm fucking anybody, I want it to be like none of the guys. Like you're never gonna hear me say like, oh, wait until you meet my new girlfriend Jessica. You'll totally love her. She'll totally remind you of Greg. It's not gonna happen. I did one time go out on a date with a woman who loves sports, and it clearly went terrible, because I'm like this guy, you know what I mean? And about halfway through the date, at one point, this lady just turned to me, and to my face, she just went, you know, they don't make men like they used to anymore. Yeah, I know, to my face. But the fucked up part is, I totally had to agree with her. Because if they did, I would have had to hit her for having an opinion on men. To be very clear, that is a joke about how I don't hit women.